All right, so excited about this matchup. Very good program in Kentucky, very well coached, play really physical, 11 a.m. kick, which our guys are used to practicing in the morning and getting up. So excited for that, excited for our fans who were awesome last week. To have another home game this week, but this will be very challenging. These guys took Georgia down to the wire and ran for over 200 yards against Georgia, so these guys are really good, and when they're motivated to play, they play really good.
Questions?
Yeah, Lane, you brought it up, but I think Kentucky is one of the few teams that really has hung with Georgia consistently over the last couple of years. I think 2 of the last 3 games between them have been decided by 10 points or less. I'm not sure if you've seen the film from their game this year, but I guess just broadly, what allows Kentucky to be competitive in those games?
Well, they have really good length on defense, great size, length, and so they're able to play with Georgia for whatever reason at home. Not so much in Georgia, but or at least the last time. So, I think that it's happened to us, happened to a lot of people. When you don't have size and length on defense, you struggle over the last few years with Georgia or Alabama before that. So they very much look like an NFL defense from a structure, but from a size standpoint and coverages and techniques. So that's why a lot of people struggle against them, and games seem a lot more like NFL games. It's hard to make yards, hard to run the ball.
I asked Jackson over the summer just how far y'all's relationship has come, and I think you used the phrase light years from when you got here to how things are now, and we see video and clips, and you've been around a lot of quarterbacks. What makes maybe this relationship between y'all two special compared to others you've had?
I think Jackson's a wonderful person. I think he treats people really well. I think he spends a lot of time with his teammates, a lot of time with kids around here, including my own son and nephew, and so it's just a really great family, great person. I think is that relationship. I just think from on the field, there's a trust level there of we spend a lot of time with him and then let him play too on Saturdays, and I just think that like you said, it started one way. I think that you build that, especially for a guy that we didn't really recruit out of high school, any of that, didn't have a previous relationship, and I think it pays off, when you have relationships and the quarterbacks trust you too, and go back to Matt Corral when he threw 6 interceptions, and before I even got to the media, sitting down with him, telling him, we got to do a better job calling plays. I got to coach better, and don't worry, we got your back. And so I think that goes a long ways, and goes a long ways with kids in recruiting, of knowing what they're going to get when they get here from a relationship, and that they can trust us to have their back.
Lane, you mentioned the team was taking a lighter practice approach during spring and fall camp. Just after 4 weeks, how do you think that's translated?
Well, I think we're going to find out more here starting Saturday. No disrespect, like I said on the call, but, statistically, the teams we've played and defenses we played, have struggled this year. And so we're going to find out a lot more about that. So that's why I'm not making big statements about where we're ranked, or how good we are on offense or defense. I've said we've got a chance to be really elite and really good, but we're going to have to prove that against bigger and better players.
First early game this year, just preparation, crowd-wise, do you have a preference on these kickoff times of when you guys play?
Yeah, it is what it is. They dictate them, we don't pick, and I wish for our fans, they'd give us night, SEC games, because I just know our fans love it and the energy, and so it is what it is, and we can't control it. So we've played really well during the day, and we've really played well at home in general for a number of years. So hopefully we do that again.
And do you feel good about JJ playing this weekend?
I do, yeah.
Lane, obviously this week is when player availability reports start rolling in for you guys. I know you haven't had a chance to fill one out yet, but just based on what you've known about it, how similar is it to the NFL? And your thoughts on that?
I mean, again, it is what it is. I don't think the system was broke, so I was hoping we didn't change it just because I didn't feel there was, enough reasons to, but it is what it is. I think we report one more day even than the NFL does, I believe, in the amount of days we have to report, but it is what it is, and I haven't even figured it out yet, so we're going to meet before whenever it is, Tuesday, Wednesday, and figure it out.
Broadly, Lane, I guess not so much exactly about Kentucky, but switching from non-conference to SEC play, you talked about the margin of players slimming up, your talent versus their talent. Do you mostly see that in, line of scrimmage, offensive and defensive line, or where will we most see the evening up as Kentucky comes and then SEC play?
I think the length that you see, the front sevens in the SEC on defense over time have always been better, really, than everywhere, any other conference. And I've said that a long time ago at Tennessee when we got there, that it was like every week, it felt like in the SEC you were going to play a really unique, at least one really unique high draft pick type of front seven defensive player. So, this is a good example of it. With this inside guy, that's a problem. And I think he's 6'7", 330, and can rush. So he would be a perfect example of SEC type of problem players in the front.
We'll take questions up top. Lane, you were talking about Jackson earlier and, the person that he is and y'all's relationship, but how have you kind of seen him evolve? Because we've seen it, from afar, how much better he's gotten on the field, but how have you seen it kind of behind the scenes when it comes to his improvement, and what have been some of the biggest factors that have led to him taking such a, step up?
I think he's really physically improved through a lot of work in all areas. His body, his feet, his arm. The guy's relentless in his pursuit at being great. Obviously in the film room and the studying and how smart he is and how much time he takes, but the time he takes as a player, but the time he works on his own game, we give him some days off, sometimes in the summer and during the breaks, and he's usually flying somewhere to go throw. So he's always working, trying to get better.
And you talked about it a little bit earlier about the defenses that you faced. Do you think these first 4 games of the year have kind of adequately prepared you guys for the gauntlet of SEC play, and how prepared are you to go into it? You said, obviously we're going to see this weekend, but the competition that you played, how much has that prepared you so far, you think?
I'm a realist. I don't think our opponents have really prepared us for the SEC play. What my hope is our practice in our fall camp has prepared us, because we play against really good players on both sides of the ball. So defensively, we play against really big linemen, and same the other way around. So schedule would not, it is what it is. And so I hope that our practice has, because our practice is similar to what we face.
Coach, I'm sure it's not at the forefront of your mind, but if the team gets a win this Saturday, it'll be your 100th career win. Just what kind of a milestone is that for you personally?
I don't know. That's a lot of a lot of places. A lot of really good coaches and players to help do that. And so I don't know. I don't really have much thoughts on that. This is a really big game against a really good team that we've gone down to the wire both times we've played them. So we need to prepare really well and play really well.
And then also, I know you started the touchdown celebrations with the dunking last year, but I heard it was your idea. Just how did you come up with that, and what made you be like, yes, we're going to do this when we're playing games?
I just try to come up with ideas that make it fun, make us entertaining to watch. Added the turnover, not just a dunk and turnover, instead of, a lot of people got a chain or a belt, and we've done things over the years, just said, okay, what could we do really creative and just let them dunk. So I think they like it. We actually show them in the Monday morning meeting the dunks, and they kind of grade themselves and judge themselves. So Just always trying to think of things to make us entertaining for fans, for our current players, and our future potential players.
If you're grading and judging, who's been the best dunk that you've seen?
Not Jackson Dart. I think Henry Parrish does a really good job for a guy that's not as long as some of them, as tall. I'd probably say Henry Parrish.
And then, sorry, last question for me. Was there anyone that you pitched that to when you came up with the idea that was like, what are you doing? This is crazy. Or everyone was like, yes, let's go.
I don't know. I probably get a lot of thoughts like that, or a lot of responses from people when I come up with ideas. But, you know, we just kind of, some are done on purpose, and some we just kind of fall into, you know, like Juice the dog. That was not on purpose, but the dunking was.
We'll take questions out here.
Trey Harris is leading the SEC in receiving by like a good 300 yards or so. He's second nationally. When you were looking at him in the portal, did you know you were getting that type of player?
I knew we were getting a great player, and one that really wanted to work and was humble and wired the right way from a great family. Now he's worked on his game a lot, improved his strength and size and speed. So I don't know that I could have told you he'd be by far the leading receiver in the SEC at this point, but knew he had a chance to be really special.
Wayne, I guess you may or may not have seen the news about Chancellor Glenn Boyce being appointed to the NCAA Board of Governors. Just working alongside him over the last 5 years, just what qualities he's possessed to make him the right man for that role?
Chancellor's been amazing. Everything I've been involved with him, he takes his time, thinks it out, comes up with a great plan, always tries to find a way to help athletics. And so I just think he's got really good awareness of everything going on around and how to creatively think of things also. So that's a really good move by them.
I know you talked about Jaden Williams a couple weeks ago, but I don't know if you know, I was doing some research. He started his career in high school as a wideout. I don't know if, is that something that, I guess, A, did you know that, and B, is that something you can see? Is there an advantageous part of kind of having that agility in a big man's body?
Well, I'm not going to tell you I knew that. I knew tight end. He was playing tight end. And a lot of times we look for that because they got good feet, good hands, and then, you know, they grow into linemen, but they still have the really good athleticism in them. And he has great feet. So that would make sense, though.
You guys have been rotating a lot through the first 4 weeks on the offensive line. Do you anticipate that rotation continuing into conference play?
Yeah, it's been, you know, hampered by the injuries with 3 interior players that are really good players that weren't available last week and have been hurt. So I actually think as we get healthy, we'll actually even rotate more and improve that.
Anything else for Coach?
All right, guys, have a good week. Thanks.